wanted to talk about something important that we don't talk about enough, which is we talk about a lot how to paint an eye realistically, right? We say all of the things we got to say. Study the form, study the cube, study the bone structure, study this, study that. And in the fervor of trying to paint eyes realistically, what happens is that you guys forget that the eye is functional. It moves. And what is its main purpose? Its main purpose is to see. Though there are eyes in this world that are apart, what you don't want to do is draw those eyes in your work. Why? Because they're not template friendly. They're not universal. And so though this artist here drew an okay face, the realism is okay. The realism is mid-intermediate, meaning that it can be hired. Any intermediate level can be hired. Even beginners can be hired. But when it comes to being hired and then making like amazing work, or making work that is, you know, like that work that makes people gasp, that's the kind of work you'd see an advanced student create. And what's the difference between advanced and intermediate? So it's very difficult to point to the difference between an advanced artist and an intermediate artist or student. And it is because you have more ground to cover as a beginner than you do as an intermediate. By intermediate time, you've done all the basics. You've gotten everything out of the way. So the very first mistake here is the background is far too close to the value of the portrait of the head. But that isn't the lesson of the day. So I'm going to be making a lot of these changes, and you guys may or may not know why I'm making many of them outside of the eye, but I will explain in depth why I am changing, why I'm making the changes to the eyes. I'm sorry, I still have a bit of brain fog from the past couple weeks of illness. I'm struggling, but I will get to the point of the sentence. If you give me an extra 2 seconds grace, I promise I'll get to the point of the sentence. So the difference between intermediate and advanced is annoying because it's in the small things. The small things make the big difference. So what are the small things here? Let's not make them small. Let's enlarge them. Let's make them so noticeable you'll never forget them. And if you are in that very awkward and very annoying stage of an intermediate, raise your hand up if you're in the audience. If you are in that intermediate stage, you know you're good, but you know you're not the best. And you want to be the best. Maybe not the best, you want to be great. But you just don't know how to budge out of that margin. You don't know what to do to push yourself out of that a weird zone where you're good, you're just not good enough. In whatever scale you want to measure good enough by. And it is in the small things. So again, let's enlarge these small things into something bigger. The first thing is light environment. You guys know about that one. There's no synergy between the contrast on the face, the highlights on the face, the color of the background, and the light source. So light source, light source, background, object, background, light source. Okay, so that's why I changed the background value, but I'm not going to go into that. That's not the point of today. The next mistake you made was because of your bad light environment. There's no way to refer to the next mistake without referring to the biggest one. Do you see why I have to mention the light environment? Because it's like a set of cards. One card is on top of the other, and then you can't mention this one without mentioning the lowest card in the deck of cards, that little tower of cards you make that. So I have to mention why the background was affecting. I have to mention the background when I'm mentioning the contrast of the face. The white in the eyes is non-existent. There's no real highlight track or highlight path along the skin. Everything is very milky looking. Everything is low contrast. Everything is very safe. And when you find safety related, caution related decisions, this person, you know, as a teacher's perspective, from a teacher's perspective, they are early intermediate. So a middle intermediate, late intermediate, early advanced, they don't give a damn about the contrast. They'll do it. They'll do what they have to do. They will make the decision they have to make. They won't be scared about it. They'll make that decision. And it all started with pushing themselves one day. Out of the many days they've drawn, they pushed themselves and they said, no, I'm going to make that bold decision and make this highlight slightly lighter and make sure that I'm making this edge slightly sharper than I would and have more confidence in those fundamentals. Obviously not abuse of edges and not abuse of contrast, which is another thing. So your contrast is bad because your background was bad. Let's get rid of those quick issues right now. But the biggest mistake that I wanted to focus on today is the eyes. We're not painting the individual faces in the real world. That's ridiculous. Let's get that out of the way once and for all. Painting every possible face that ever existed or saying that this face does exist in real life is not a valid retort against critique. And I don't know what to say to that. That's not who we want to draw. That's not the person we'd see in movies. That's not the person we'd see in a League Splash. It's just the rules. We want to paint the template faces that can be used throughout. Obviously, I'm not here trying to change every face into the face I draw. I'm trying to find the template within the face you drew. And most of these decisions are not deliberate. Someone who paints a face that they know and love, that's the deliberate choice. When you're using a reference, it's deliberate. But in the 14-day challenge, I've taken it on faith that this person did not use a reference. First mistake is the fact that the eyes have no focus. They are not symmetrical. And that has destroyed the basic function of the eyes, meaning the eyes don't look like they're functional. They don't look like they're looking at anything. They look spaced out. It's a tool used in anime. It's a tool used in any kind of animation or cartoon or anything like that, where if the character seems spaced out, they remove the focus in the eyes. Google it, spaced out character. I'm not really sure exactly where to direct you, but one that comes to mind is they like to make L from Death Note look like he's not quite part of the world. He's kind of a unique human being. And so one of the ways they made him look like he's just as crazy, if not more crazy than the criminals he investigates, he doesn't have these focused eyes. He has eyes that look like they're in a different reality, in a different mind space, almost high. So when we do that to the characters we're drawing before, they look deformed. After. Before. After. But I'm here for those who don't want to make accidental mistakes like this. So before, after. Okay? So another thing is this eyebrow is not quite symmetrical with this one. This, when I see asymmetry, that's how I know it wasn't deliberate. And I'm just going to give the eyebrow shape a generally universal shape, which is the eyebrow arc. At this point, I don't know if it's a man or a woman. It could be a man with delicate features. It could be a woman with a little bit of harder features. It's hard to tell, so I'm going to keep it androgynous, meaning I'm going to keep the result looking like it's either male or female. At this point, I think they're going for female if I were to guess, but the downturned outer corners of the eye, these guys, everyone look, the outer corner of the eye, when they're low, you have a male eye. When they're high, you have a female eye per the template. I repeat, per the template. It has nothing to do with real life situation. So because in the spirit of keeping it androgynous, I'm going to keep it level. Before, after. Was this an accidental mistake? Was this a deliberate choice? I don't think any artist wants to draw a character. I'm trying to be delicate here. A character that looks deformed. All right? I'm trying to be objective. I'm trying to be delicate about this. So this is it. This is what I mean by functional anatomy, a functional mechanism that is the eye, a functional gaze, a gaze that looks realistic because it's functioning. Can anyone describe what I mean when I say functioning? What do I mean by an eye that functions? What does that have to do with realism? Don't we just have to draw the eye? Why do we have to make it look like it can move? What does that have to do with the realism? Can anyone answer? So before, after, before, after. I want the character to look directly at me. So that's a clue for the answer. Yes, deliberate. Something, but it's never that, especially in the 14-day challenge. So can anyone answer that question? So again, before, after, before, after. If you wanted it to be female, pull the whole eye apart, but keep the iris focused, meaning keep the pupils in the iris focused. Okay, so it doesn't have to be eyes that are close together. Remember, you can make eyes close together. You can make the eyes downturned up or down. The eye corner can go up or down. You can make them downturned for male or female. Just depends on the kind of surrounding features and what they're saying. Things you can't do is disrupt the function of the eye like this. This is what happens. I'm not making a joke. When someone has a stroke, they no longer can control the muscles on both or a half of the face, and so all the muscles get a drooping look to them. This is what happens when someone has a disease in the eyes that makes it so that only they can't focus both eyes on one object. They have to pick which eye is focusing. They have blindness in a sense. It's not blindness in that the eye can't get light inside of it or use the light inside of it. It's blindness in that the functional symmetry of the eye is not functional. If we want it to be realistic, then we want it to be like real people that we can interact with, that move and blink. Exactly. And the extension of that is when the pupils in the iris pull inward, they are looking at us. Obviously not all the way inward. We don't want this. We want something where it looks like the eyes are crossed in enough that the brain sees one image. There is a point when if your eyes cross inward just enough, the brain can unite both images together and fill in the blanks. But if you cross them too much, the brain freaks out. If you pull them apart too much or space out, the brain isn't looking at anything. So at this point right now, I just pick one eye, make it feel like it's looking at me, zoom out, and then keep adjusting, micro adjustments, until things look pretty much like he's looking right at me. So before, all the people that like to say Istebrak just forces everybody to draw the face she wants to draw. This isn't about me. This is about this difference. How does this have to do with me? Right? This has nothing to do with me personally. It's just the rules. I'm just the messenger. And you've decided to shoot the messenger. All right? But the rules are still there, whether or not you have an opinion about whether or not you've seen somebody in the millions of people, billions of people you see throughout your life. I don't know if it's billions, millions. But I'm pretty sure you've seen somebody that looks like, I've seen somebody that looks just like this. But that's not what I'm drawing, and that's not what you should be drawing either, because you're not skilled enough to take on those unique faces yet. You need to be studying the basic, neutral, template faces so that you can develop your skill through that. All right? This has nothing to do with me. All right, so what's left? Well, what's left is the accidental distance. I'm going to call it accidental. Again, I'm taking this in good faith that no reference was used. The distance between the nose and the mouth. All right, so the nose and the mouth should not be too far apart if you're drawing a character that is younger. When we age, we draw faces that are, when we age, let's say we're just drawing a cartoon face. All right, so cartoon face, it looks like this. We're trying to, in this comic panel, show that this character has aged. So what we would do is we would take this mouth and lower it. All right. We would also add some laugh lines, crow's feet, but it all starts with this distance. Okay. Another thing is if we took the eyes and made them downturned. So that's why your character looked old. So when we use any of these tools in a drawing, and there's many people who try to paint a young face and accidentally end up with an old face simply because they overdid the laugh lines. Even if your reference has laugh lines, you ignore it, because these are the filtered restrictions. There's the world of realism, there's the filters of what is acceptable, and you have to pass by what is acceptable in order to get to the final canvas and what is on your canvas. The filter of what is acceptable is this: age signatures, gender signifiers, tropes of any kind, functions in the eyes, things like that, deformities. You have to make sure that just because it works in a reference, because it's a photo, it can do whatever it wants, it's a photo of the real world, there's no mistakes, does not mean that it'll work in our world. That does not mean that it'll work. We do a filter pass where we are passing through what is permissible in the world of a drawing, because some things just don't read the way we need them to, the way they did in the real world. They don't read in the drawing world, in the world of the drawing, even the world of the illustration, unless it's photorealism. They don't read very well. So that's why I'm raising the mouth upward, not because I want to make every face look like my style of face. In fact, I don't even think I have a style. I try to push my realism, so I don't even think I have a style in the truest sense of the term. So before, after. So it made her or him look very masculine, but also a lot more old. Do you see that difference? So if I show you the before and after, just from this chatter, just from these changes, you'll see that they were a lot more detrimental to the success of the drawing than initially thought. I'm sure you can look at any drawing and say, find the beauty in it. You know, you can find the beauty in anything. But is this what's going to help the student get a job in the industry? No, not really. So before, after. So it's about neutralizing the extremes, making the eye function, making everything work. And then from there, it's just everything falls into place. So now you have the same character. I don't feel like we lost the character you initially had. I feel like we're still looking at the same spirit of the character. We just have a little bit less deformity, making us go, you know, not quite there. I can see a person, but I don't see a soul. And when you add that function in the eyes, you add that, not squint too, but if you add that inner crossing of the eyes, that inward motion, you suddenly make the character look like they're alive. If you breathed air into this character and they came to life, they would talk to you. They would have a conversation with you. And that's how you make characters look alive. That's what I do when people say my portraits look like they have souls. That's what I do. I focus a lot on the function of the eyes. I make it look like these eyes work. These eyes can see. And when you do that, that's when you make something look like it's real. So the whites of the eyes have been raised back up. They were a little bit too bloodshot. That was because of the original mistake you made with the light environment. And then apart from that, it's just down to getting rid of the milky skin tone against the background, giving it a bit more contrast. And of course, just reblocking some area. So the dark spots under the eye are also making the character look a bit more sickly. Remember, it's not just about getting the villain look out of the dark circles of the eyes. It's about making the character look sickly or unwell. All right, I'm blending away some of this bone structure here. So you even got to the level where you were adding freckles. That's a whole lot of focus on detail. If you haven't yet done any work on just proper referencing of function. And how do you do that? You do diagrams. That's what you have to do. You diagram the eye. Right now, your drawing of the eye is the reference of a reference of a drawing of a reference of a photo. It's like this really, really far removed culmination of information you've collected over many attempts at drawing an eye. You didn't go straight to the source. A lot of you just used your memory of the last painting you saw, or like habitual hand movements, muscle memory. You guys don't go to the source of the information. Why? Why don't you go to the source? Go and look at the way an eye functions. That's what I mean by go to the source. Look at the way an eye moves. Look at the way it rotates. Look at the way, it doesn't really rotate, but look at the way it shifts over. Look at what its limits are and look at what it can do. What's its function? What's its purpose in the evolutionary spectrum? How did it change? What makes our eyes different from animal eyes? What makes them similar? Those are the things that documentaries are great for. They really open your eyes. I'm sorry, that was not intentional. They really open your eyes, and they make you understand that it's not just about paint brushes beside each other, paint strokes beside each other. It's about the paint strokes have a source, and the source is the real world, and the source of this real world source is functional. It can move. You're representing something that can animate. And so that means that the eyes cross inward when they're looking at something, which is something you neglected. All right, good one. It was not intentional. Pinterest, draw from life? No, it's go to a video of an eye blinking and look at it. Go and just look at the way your eye moves. Look at the way your eye shifts around. Look at the way it blinks. There's videos upon videos online of zoom ups, close-ups of eyes and how they work. Draw a diagram. Draw an animated diagram. Meaning diagram the eye. Start from the eyeball and work all the way out to the bone, and then the eyelids and the skin, and then the muscles and all of that, and understand what the eye is there for. It's not just about drawing something that has specular highlights and glitter and lashes. It's about drawing something that is a lot more than specular highlights and glitter and lashes and eyeshadow and glimmer. It's about drawing an eye that looks like it can rotate if you were to breathe life into it. Drawing an eye that looks like it can move, that looks like it can see, that looks like it can squint, that looks like it can have hate in it or love in it, that looks like it can have worry in it. An eye that looks like it contains a soul. All right, that's where we go to in media and in anime. When a character has lost their soul or is possessed, what is the key thing anime does? I know y'all know this answer. What's the key thing in anime that they do? Where do they go to show the character has lost their soul or is possessed? What's that first thing you see in anime? And I think anime is really good at this shit. If they are good at anything, it is expression. There are some days I'm watching One Piece or watching Jujutsu Kaisen or something, or watching even DBZ, like old Dragon Ball. And I'm like, wow, like they know how to capture some emotions, and it's always in the eyebrows and the eyes. Shadowed eyes, excellent. They remove the glow in the eyes. The specular highlight is gone, and the character's eyes are spaced out. That's because they know that the familiarity between you and the character is the eyes. They know that's where humans as a species go to create a connection when they speak. They know that's what humans need to feel like they are communicating. So when someone is standing in front of you in the dark and you don't see the white of their eyes, what do you feel? You feel, what the heck, who is this person? You feel scared, you feel endangered, because you don't know. You haven't created a connection between you and that person in the dark, and so that's what makes it even scarier. And what do all of the bad guys in every movie have in common? They're always shadowed and in the dark, and we can't really see their eyes. Any character that's mysterious or dangerous. So if you're drawing realism and you haven't focused on the importance of the eyes, of the connection of the viewer with the eyes you draw, if you don't understand the power of that connection, you need to stop and do some studies on what it is that will carry you over from intermediate into advanced. And it is diagramming the function of the eye. When it comes to the eye, what carries over from intermediate eye to advanced eye is these key elements. Does the eye function? Does it breathe? Does it move? Does it act? Does it do all those things? Okay? And when someone dies, what do? We look at the eyes and look at the dilation of the pupils. When someone is possessed, they kind of throw their eyes up and roll them back, and the light in the eyes is gone. We go to the eyes to communicate with our creations, and that's what the viewer will do as well. And that's what we do with each other as well. And when you want to be a portrait artist, that's the attention you have to paint. Even if you don't want to be a portrait specialist like me, you can still benefit from drawing faces that have that human connection to them, even if you stylize with anime. Even anime could not drop that fundamental. They dropped every other fundamental. They couldn't drop this one. And they go to the eyes to create a lot of emotional connection and express emotion and all of that. And still, when you zoom up, there's a lot of functional animation in the eyes, even in anime. And meaning the way the eyes rotate, the way the eyes blink, even in those funny, meme kind of, like, I don't know, like, jokey, what are they called? Like emotions, expressions, those funny things that characters do when it's just basically an emoji. I don't really know how to describe it. You know, when a character's shocked, they all have the same emoji face in an anime. Even those are so expressive. But anyway, yeah, you can't talk about eyes without talking about expression or vice versa. And I just want to show you the difference in this before and after, especially after the functional changes I made, but now I'm just rendering a little bit extra. I'm giving the eyelids a little bit more. Again, I wasn't going to explain every change I made because the point was about talking about this important thing that I don't talk about enough in my channel, which is drawing functional eyes. But yeah, I'll show you the before and after so you guys can see. Before I do that, I just want to fix up this eye socket area. So do yourself a favor. Don't waste the next 2 years hating me. Just listen to me. It has nothing to do with me. And it just has everything to do with you wanting to be an artist. I mean, you're here because you want to be one, right? And that's why you Googled art teachers online, free art tutorial, no anime, realism free, and you found me, right? So I'm just adding a shadow for those eyelashes that I just exaggerated. Let me look at the questions. The cartoony expressions, yeah, those cartoon yeah, they're like meme type of, I don't know how to describe them. They're the same ones through all anime shows, and they just usually all have the same kind of like expression. I don't even know. It's like a meme. It's a meme emoji. I don't know the official term for it. I'm sure there's a term for it. Chibi expressions in anime. Chibi means small creations, right? Like small versions of existing characters. I could be wrong. All I know is Chibi has big heads, little bodies. Okay. And so the next thing I'm gonna do is just fix up this and that on the rest of the features. The septum should not be level if you're drawing a full-grown human adult, just because it doesn't look like you're trying to draw Asian face or African face, which usually have level septums. It looks like you're drawing a Caucasian face just because of the shape of the eyes and the squared features. And I'm just leveling the Cupid's bow with the septum of the nose, and I'm gonna just leave it at that for now and blend out the lips. Blend out the lips, throw in a shadow for the lower cylinder. See that long shadow? That's not a bad shadow, that's a good shadow. Throw in the same shadow for the upper cylinder. Now you've got 2 lines running across the face. Good, keep them, don't erase them. Just blend them out and they'll incorporate back. But their indication is still present, creating a muscular understructure, substructure, for the muscle of the face, which is part of the lips under the mouth. And I'm just blending them out. And then that's revealed to us that what you've got going on in the lips, it seems like these things are stretching out too far. They need to be tucked back in. So I'm just going to use liquify to save some time. It seems like they are not quite connected to the mouth. And there really isn't enough contrast. So you made up for the lack of contrast by lengthening those instead of just adding the dark spots that we need to have there. There's 6 dark spots on the face. The 2 corners of the eyes, sorry, the 2 corners of the mouth, the nose and the eyes, the nostrils and the eyes. And I'm just blending this out. I'm blending the top half of those dots I added. And I'm letting them feel like they are connecting to the rest of the face. And then I am also adding highlight to the upper lip, to the upper half of the lower lip. Upper half, lower lip, upper half of it. Then the Cupid's bow gets a little bit of highlight. And that nose shadow shouldn't stretch all the way down. It should be a halfway to the mouth shadow. Okay, and then I believe that's it for now. I'm just going to push the contrast in the pupils and the iris. This is what I mean by advanced level contrast. Where there is black, don't hold back. God. Where there is white, I don't know. Now we have to make one that rhymes with white. You guys do it. I'm going full black on the nostrils. Full black on the corners of the mouth. Cowmoji? Is that what it is? Is that what it's called in anime when they have like those really extreme emotions they're always doing? If it's white, ain't that right? Oh, if it's white, that ain't right. Keep it tight. So you guys are so good. Oh, hi, Corey. Do it right? Yeah. If it's white, do it right. Exactly. Don't overuse it. If it's black, don't hold back. There you go. I feel like a kindergarten teacher. Just a little bit of extra work here and there. So this is what's holding you back. This is why you're floating in the endless space of intermediate, middle intermediate. Oh, what an accursed time to float in. I was floating in that dead zone of intermediate for a really long time. And you may learn how to detail and you may learn how to finish an illustration, but your work will not cross over until you take those extra steps. It could be anything. It could be composition related. It could be anatomy related. It could be anything, but it lingers. It lingers for a while. And the thing that crosses over is the little things you learn on this documentary or critiquing this person. And I believe the day I crossed over from intermediate to advanced portraiture is the day I really took that seriously. And I started trying to find the little things in the little things in the little things and learned, you know, these small things. Most of it was from teaching and seeing different types of mistakes. So that's why y'all should be watching every single 14-day challenge I share, because every mistake someone else makes is an opportunity to look for you to learn that one new little thing that helps you cross over from that dreaded intermediate stage, that purgatory stage, into advanced, and finally say, yes, I have a reliable advanced skill set in blank, whatever you want to fill that with. And I'm just reducing some of the extra contrast. So you had these patches, you had no mid-tone. You had midtones, but you didn't have the mid-tone that marries all the values together. And then finally, there's the shadow of the neck, which is not there, on the neck of the jaw, which is not there. So before... Okay, so you can see how it was just all milky. And then I'll show you the after. So keep in mind, this isn't about bringing in contrast willy-nilly. It's about bringing in contrast where we know light is being rejected, where water is floating around. This is what it means by thinking about the the advanced way of applying value. There's a reason why things are dark and things are light, and you are true to those reasons, not because you feel like using dark or you feel like being artistic. You have a real functional reason behind this. There's more light being denied between the neck and the jaw than anywhere else, and we need that shadow. And wherever we have oily spots, we need that highlight. And we can apply it uneven because the skin, the imperfections on the skin are uneven. So we can apply highlights in an uneven way. And then finally, I'm boosting the highlight on the specular part of the eyes. And I'm adding those last minute little highlights on the nose, on the mouth, on the chin, wherever we have extra sweat or heat from the nose building up along the upper lip, or the water of the waterline, because the lubrication is required for the eye to be functional. That F word is back. Functional eye means a wet eye. A wet eye is a functional eye, as much as it needs to be crossed in. This is how I infuse a soul, as they say in my illustrations. I think about these functional things. And eventually you run out of things to think about. You've thought about all of them, and then you're advanced. There is a limit. It's not an endless void of things to learn. There's a point where you're done learning and you're just using the knowledge that you learned. So if you keep thinking, oh, you know, there's all these little things, they seem endless, there's a point where you're done learning and it's just easy. That point happens and it sneaks up on you and you're like, oh, wow, it's easy. Art is easy now. And you will get to that point. So I'm just trying to do one last little campaign of liquefy just to make these eyes symmetrical. It's okay to have asymmetrical eyes. It's okay. But, yeah. I just want to be a good teacher and have a good result. So bear with me while I endure my perfectionism. Okay, so, and there is a perfectionism that comes with art. It's just part and parcel. This is our craft. There's a lot of stuff to balance, a lot of details to iron out, and it just happens to us. We become perfectionists, and that's okay. And I want to get that smile back that they had. And they kind of look worried, so I'm just going to raise the eyebrows up. Now that the face is in place, I can address all of these other things, these accessories. I call a smile basically an accessory, or an expression is an accessory. And okay, so there's going to be a big difference, so don't be surprised if you see a big difference in today's before and after. I talked about all these little things. Your result from beginner to advanced, your result from intermediate to advanced might be different than mine, but this is based off my skill. My skill resulted in this difference between intermediate and advanced. But remember, it's early intermediate. So before, after, before, after. Notice the eyes, obviously, but the distance between the nose and the mouth. The lack of contrast in the background. These are all problematic differences. So now it's androgynous. I don't know if it's male or female. And that's fine. It can be either. But you can see the white in the eyes, the lack of focus in the eyes, the asymmetrical eyebrows that seem to start after the eye, the asymmetrical sagging of the outer corner of the eye, the aging that you added, the accidental aging. Hi, Abby, welcome. Oh, Indonesia, what a beautiful country to live in. I wish I lived there. Even abstract things like composition or color, I have a hard time comprehending and ending for those. Absolutely. Absolutely. No. There is an ending, and you find the ending when you study subject matter that exhausts composition and color. Meaning, where do we see composition and color exhausted? And that is movies. The more you study movies, the more you'll see that used at the cutting edge of the study of composition and color. If composition and color was a science of some kind. It is a science, but it's part of a larger science. But if it was an independent science, we would be finding the cutting edge of it practiced by movie makers and directors and cameramen and cinematographers and all of the costume designers and all of these things. But when I say color, and all of these things are exhausted by the fields that practice them most. So photographers, anyone holding a camera is beating the crap out of composition every day. And that's who you go and study. You are not an island. Art is not an island. It borrows from every field of study, just like English literature and other humanities studies in school. So you have to understand there's a point where you cross over. If you're an artist studying portraits, you're watching animal documentaries to learn about the way an eye functions. You remember that. It sticks somewhere in your brain. It just sticks to the wall. And you use that information at some point. Plus you have me. You don't have to do it alone. I did all this alone. It was miserable. It took me forever to learn. But I guess there was a purpose behind growing up outside of the internet age. But you guys have tons of tutorials online to help you exhaust those fields, to find the little things within the little things. And the more you watch critiques, the more you watch other people draw, the more you pick up on the little things that are making a difference and helping them cross from intermediate to advanced. What are the advanced artists doing? And you'll be surprised. Most of the things advanced artists do, it's like that lesson in the stories. You travel to the ends of the earth and all what you find is a mirror and you're looking at yourself. Do you know what I'm saying? Like the greatest, the great epic, man versus man. It's you're stopping yourself kind of thing. So the advanced artist always reported back the same thing. Hey, advanced artist, what do you do differently? What made your art explode? What made your art make that big difference? And they'll always tell you, I went back to the basics. I went back to the basics. I let myself stay a student. That's what the advanced people are saying. I started looking at other fields of study. I started pursuing other hobbies. That's what the advanced artists are telling you. They're telling you, take this art stuff seriously when it comes to studies and start doing more of the branching, push further. Push yourself that extra mile. If you're studying eyes, don't just study a flat picture of an eye. Study a video of an eye moving, and it makes all the difference. And if you want to be better at line art, study the animators. What do the animators say? And they'll tell you the same thing. Animators are the best artists, in my opinion. They are the absolute best because of the amount of mileage they pour constantly. And they are so good at everything they do and everything they touch. And their lines are so efficient and their volume is so clear and their rotation is flawless and their grasp of perspective is almost flawless. It shouldn't be flawless in animation, but there's always a room for accepted error, welcomed error, necessary error. But they'll all tell you the same exact thing. I studied life as it moves. And that's what the difference is today. We studied movement, we studied material, of course, the background, the light environment, the objects that are reflecting. The difference in the light environment is the biggest difference you're noticing. That you get that from form studies by studying reflective objects, matte objects in the same light environment and how they may change. That's what makes you pick better values for your portrait and have better shadows. But the difference in the character, that comes from studying, obviously, tropes, but also, if they do look old, why? And if they don't look human, even if we fixed all the things that make them look old, they would still have had too much distance between the eyes. That was on its own. It's just on its own, and that's why I barely talk about it. The focus in the eyes is it's singular. It's a singular mistake. Anyways, I'll stop talking your ears off. Thank you guys for watching today. I was going to take a look at this one. I wanted to talk about I function on this one because she's looking down. Do you see that? And I don't think the artist meant for her to look down. I think the artist is not quite sure how to make her look up. How do I know that? Because I used to have this problem in my portraits until I figured it out. And I'll talk to you guys about this Thursday. This is a day 8. By day 8, you should pretty much understand this stuff, but that's okay. It's why I'm here. So I will let you guys go. Before, after. Thank you guys for watching today. Oh, Adam, hi. It's so lovely to see you. You always pop in and surprise me. That was very informative. You're very welcome, Cat Lord. Thank you, Adam, for hopping in. I'm looking over and oh, there's Adam. Thank you so much for hopping in, Adam. I really appreciate it. I know you're so busy all the time, but you still make time to hop in. I really appreciate it. Okay, guys. Thank you. I'll see you guys on Thursday. Bye.